Let not your heart be troubled. You are listening to the Sean Hannity Radio Show podcast. Hey, like most of you, I had trouble sleeping, but I sleep better than ever. And you know what? It's all because of a pillow. Mike Lindell's My Pillow has changed my life for the better, and it works. What makes My Pillow so different is their patented adjustable fill. Now, you can adjust the patented fill to your exact individual comfort need and get the support you absolutely must have. And that means you fall asleep faster, you stay asleep longer. It just works. Now, millions of people have already discovered that My Pillow works for them, and now it's time for you to experience My Pillow for yourself. Just go to mypillow.com. Use the promo code Sean, and when you do, Mike Lindell will give you his best offer ever. Buy one My Pillow, get another one absolutely free. Now, My Pillow's made in the USA, has a 10-year warranty and a 60-day unconditional money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. So get started and get the sleep you crave and deserve. MyPillow.com, promo code Hannity, and get Mike Lindell's special 2-for-1 offer. That's MyPillow.com, promo code Sean. I don't even know where to begin because the information is shocking and more spectacular by the minute and the hour, and we've got a lot of ground to cover today. Is just one way to say all of this. We're learning that apparently Comey shared all his information with Mueller and was brought in early in the... Comey is the guy that leaked to the Columbia professor to get his buddy Mueller appointed special counsel in the first place. Comey is the guy that made it possible by writing... Well, first, when he first wrote the exoneration, he's admitting Hillary committed numerous felonies about how she mishandled classified information, destroyed classified information, how not having her email server in a secure place, how it resulted in foreign entities and agencies being able to capture the information and probably the 33,000 emails. He's the guy. He was the one that worked with Strzok. And now it gets worse from there. And, you know, now we've got Strzok and Page discussing how to remove the text messages. We've got 5 months, critical months, of text messages between Peter Strzok and his mistress, lawyer, girlfriend at the FBI, Lisa Page, on how to remove messages. I mean, it shocks and should shock the conscience of every single person. By the way, the Judicial Watch chief is urging Sessions to seize FBI computers. I don't think that's a bad idea at this hour. I think that's actually a pretty good idea. Because who knows, God knows how long they're going to last until somebody gets in there and takes them out. Now we've got talk of a secret society and the FBI meeting the day after all of this. And I'm like, you can't make this up in a novel. It's getting so bad. You're looking at the biggest abuse of power in the history of the United States of America. And we still don't even have the memo. And the memo, I'm told, is the tip of the spear and the tip of the iceberg here. And there's so much more that is going to be coming, which shows that we really need to get to the bottom line of all of this, because it's the Constitution that is now in play here. You know, when we first had 10,000 texts, now we know there are 50,000 texts between, you know, Trump hating, Hillary loving, Peter Strzok, and lovebirds Peter Strzok and Lisa Page are now under review by the Office of the Inspector General. But we still have the 5 months of missing text messages. How did they go missing? How are they not recoverable? Later on, we've got Bill Binney's going to join us. He's the guy that has told us after 34 years at the NSA that every text, every email, every phone call is metadata stored. Philip Haney, who is the author of See Something, Say Nothing. He's another guy with 30-plus years experience and a whistleblower. And he's the guy that said, when Obama became president, I was told to destroy all the intel. He's one of the founding members of the Department of Homeland Security. So, you know, we've got the FBI losing 5 months of text messages during the key period when the dossier came out, when Flynn was investigated, when Comey was fired, when the special counsel was appointed, when the president said, yeah, it looks like I was spied upon. He was. And we first broke this story almost a year ago. That's how long this goes on. And for those of you that have been frustrated, why don't we get to the conclusion? Because it's not how, literally, they don't want us to get to the conclusion. They don't want this to unravel the way it's been unraveling here. They don't want to be caught in their nefarious and illegal activities. But what you have is, and why this is so profoundly different and so much bigger than Watergate, is we have a group of people that are trying to rig and fix pretty much everything. And it starts with Hillary herself. I cannot to this day understand why more people were not outraged when Donna Brazile writes a book saying she rigged the primary election. How is that not huge news? If I'm a Bernie supporter, I'm apoplectic. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. Now, I do have a sidebar that there were people that were frustrated and angry and tried to do something about it. But that's a different story for a different day. I would be livid. And now we've got the smoking gun evidence. And I go back to where we were yesterday with Loretta Lynch. Now she's in the loop knowing that, in fact, Hillary was going to be exonerated and the fix was in. I'll get to that in a minute. And then you have Hillary with the dossier. What is the dossier really all about? The dossier is spending $12 million, Hillary Clinton campaign money funneled through one lawyer, DNC money that she's controlling, according to Donna Brazile, the DNC chair at the time, going to the same lawyer, full of lies, propaganda, salacious details, unproven, unchecked, never mind unproven. And that is to influence the general election, and then being shopped to the news media in coordination with Glenn Simpson and the Hillary Clinton campaign. Okay, so you rigged the primary. Why not try to rig the general with phony information from Russia? I thought the very thing the left said that they hated so much. And in the process, the only reason you get to remain candidate is because the FBI rigged their investigation into you, and they've got the smoking gun evidence that James Comey, Peter Strzok, and now appears others, probably Andrew McCabe. Then we got Bruce Orr's issues. Then we've got Loretta Lynch brought into this, and that she knew that it was never going to happen. And the timeline for them is devastating. No wonder 5 months of critical text messages disappeared, because they're not following any rule of law in all of this. You know, I agree with Judicial Watch. They're now urging Sessions, seize the FBI computers. Do it now. I mean, you know, ask Paul Manafort, by the way, because FBI investigators seldom hesitate in collecting evidence when they want it. Why not do it now? At this point, Congress is investigating the Department of Justice. They'll have and the FBI. They will have no communications with them because they are believing at the highest levels in Congress that all of this was abused. You know, and then we've got this story out today that, you know, while FBI Gate, that's the bombshell, one after another exploding, that the man at the center of the worst scandal in the Bureau's history, James Comey, well, he's busy tweeting away because, you know, Congressman John Ratcliffe tweeted, quote, the thousands of texts that Trey Gowdy and I reviewed today revealed manifest bias among top FBI officials against President Trump, both before and after President Trump was elected. We know that they hated, both Strzok and Lisa Page hated him. You know, F Trump and the rest of it, the text between them. But the texts then talk about Strzok and Page referencing a secret society. What's the secret society? And a little more than 3 hours later, the disgraced FBI director, James Comey, appeared to respond to Ratcliffe's tweet with a cryptic message. Good to read reports of people standing up for what they believe in. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. MLK, which begs the question. Comey, was he the chairman of this secret anti-Trump society? You know, he's so highfalutin, thinks at the end of the day, him giving Hillary the pass, him giving her the pass, meant that she got to continue to run for president. They cleared the way for her. If it was Donald Trump, he would have been arrested and charged. I mean, it's unbelievable. Anyway, you may think back, if you remember Comey's testimony, remember it was closely coordinated with the special counsel. Remember that? A source close to James Comey told Fox News at the time that the former FBI director's Senate testimony had been closely coordinated with Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller didn't have this job but for James Comey. I mean, all of this is so incestuous and so inanely corrupt. It should take your breath away in all of this. I mean, let me just go over some of the more interesting details here, because it's almost like a novel being written that you can't believe. And I will say this in the terms of vindication. I've been telling everybody the media is wrong. How could the media miss the biggest story of their lifetime? So much bigger than Watergate, as they've been focused on a phony Russia collusion story. I mean, it's you got the Attorney General now. The messages that the FBI is claiming to have lost are from a critical time in all of this. The 14th of December, 2016 to the 17th of May, 2017, the day that the special counsel gets appointed. Then magically the next day they show up again. Now, remember, and that was when Trump thought that he was being wiretapped, all these other issues coming up, and James Comey being fired, the special counsel being named. So the messages missing are from the entire period when all of this is going down. Probably would reveal a lot. And now the question is, how do we retrieve these text messages? How do we get them back? Where is the phone? Is it metadata stored? Do they have any backups? How long is it going to take? And why does this keep happening? Lois Lerner, oops, missing the emails. Oops, Hillary Clinton. Oops, I deleted them. I bleach bit them. I acid washed them. I broke up my devices. Oops, Debbie Wasserman Schultz's IT guy has busted up hard drives in his garage. It all reeks of law-breaking, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. And it's laughable they're trying to blame Samsung for all of this and a misconfiguration. Really, Samsung? How about instead of making excuses, they do their job? You know, this is all part of a much larger pattern in all of this. It happens all the time. You know, the FBI, remember they destroyed the laptops of Clinton aides with immunity deals? Who destroys evidence like that? Another corrupt deal in the making. You know, the FBI wouldn't be able to look at possible obstruction. They destroyed the evidence. Nobody makes that deal within law enforcement. And Clinton broke the law. It was plain and simple. Everybody knew it. And the only reason she got to continue was because of this cabal of Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, James Comey, Andrew McCabe. Let's find out what Bruce Orr's involvement in all of this is. His wife was the one putting that dossier together for Fusion GPS. He's meeting with Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS never corroborated any of the dossier's false, salacious information. You know, then you got the text messaging from Strzok and Page that shows them. Now the Attorney General is brought into this. Now, remember, in May, Comey, Strzok, and other top officials started drafting the Clinton exoneration before investigation. Now Loretta Lynch, at that point, was meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac. You know, at the end of June, we still haven't talked to Hillary Clinton at that point or the key players in that investigation. And then just days later, Lynch said she'd step aside. She'd accept the FBI's conclusion. And then Strzok texts Page. Remember, Strzok and Page saying we needed an insurance policy. Now, at this point, Strzok is writing, well, the timing, meaning of the meeting with Clinton and Loretta Lynch on the tarmac, looks awful. And then Page says, yeah, it's a real profile in courage since she knows no charges will be brought. That's before they ever interviewed Hillary Clinton. The fix was in. It was rigged. Everything in this case was rigged. It's despicable. We are corrupting the entire constitutional process in this country if this is allowed to go on without major ramifications for the people involved and jail time for these people involved. All right, I'm going to try and just take the time and go through this slowly and explain everything to you in light of what we are discovering kind of hour by hour and day by day here. Now, there's got to be a way to get these 5 crucial months of texts. Now, I know a lot of you on Twitter, you're like, all right, release the memo. Here's what I've heard about the memo. Let me tell you what my sources are telling me. There was a letter that was signed by, let's see, Goodlatte, Devin Nunes, and Trey Gowdy that was going to be hand-delivered to the Department of Justice. Then the Republican Party, in caucus session, decided, apparently unanimously, that, no, we're not going to the FBI. We're not going to the Department of Justice. We're investigating the Department of Justice. We're investigating what has gone on here, especially in light of the Strzok Page memos and the missing critical 5 months we've got here. It happened with Lois Lerner 2 years before we ever got those emails. Oh, we can't find them. Hillary's 33,000 deleted emails, acid wash, bleach bit, breaking with hammers with devices, no SIM cards, And then, of course, broken up hard drives and Debbie Wasserman Schultz's IT guy. I guess the lesson here is, and don't quote me, if you're in trouble, break everything, destroy everything, get rid of everything. Now, forensic people, really smart people, are telling me there are ways to recover this. It took 2 years to get Lois Lerner's emails back. But the reason they're covering up is because what you have is an attempted coup. What you have is an attempt to allow the tools of the intelligence, those powerful tools, to be used to influence a presidential election, coupled with a bought and paid for phony Russian propaganda dossier. And then it was used also in the court system to spy on a presidential opposition party, an opposition candidate, and an incoming administration and a president-elect. This makes Watergate look like, stealing a Snickers bar from your local candy store. It's that big, it's that corrupt, it's that deep, it's that profound. It should be to everybody. And I don't care if you're a liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, you should care. Because they've shredded the Constitution. They've shredded the Fourth Amendment. And the deep state thought they knew better than the American people. Now it's coming. America's chickens are coming home to roost. All right, 25 now till the top of the hour. 800-941-SEAN is our toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of the program. There's so much to get to here. We've got a history. I'm not sure if I ought to end up going through all of this, but the history of Comey sharing memos with Mueller. And, I'm telling you right now, this stinks to high heaven. And I want to go through this a little bit more slowly, especially in light of now we have Strzok and Page discussing how to get rid of their texts, because this is problematic. Because now you're talking about full-on obstruction of and probably destruction of evidence, which is part of a pattern of Obama administration officials, from Lois Lerner and, the officials that were leading the charge, unfairly going after conservatives with using the power of the IRS in that case. And the IRS said, well, the emails are lost because of a system crash. Now they're blaming Samsung in this particular case. Every time the walls are closing in on anybody Obama administration related, just key evidence just seems to magically disappear at just the right time. When it keeps happening, it defies logic to believe this crap. And it is a bunch of crap, and it's a bunch of lies. And, there's what we're talking about here is this is their go-to MO. When they are cornered, they destroy. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the IT aide scandal with the smashed hard drives in the garage. Of course, the aide's lawyer denies it, but okay. Then you got these newly released text messages, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Hillary loving, Trump hating, individuals. Lisa Page is the counsel working closely with Andrew McCabe. They're the three that talk about an insurance policy. God forbid if Donald Trump wins the election. I think we now know what the insurance policy is. And then we learned from the text messages yesterday, that before they even interviewed Hillary Clinton, that Loretta Lynch knew there was not going to be any type of charges brought against Hillary Clinton. And then you add to that what she did, which was so wrong, meeting on the tarmac with Bill Clinton. But all you can conclude here is that there was a circle of individuals that decided that Hillary Clinton had the right to be the Democratic Party's choice for president. Because if the rule of law were equally applied to Hillary, she violated numerous laws and committed numerous felonies, not the least obstruction of justice, destroying subpoenaed emails, 33,000, acid washing, bleach pit, mishandling classified information, destroying classified information. You see how it's all beginning to tie together here. This house of cards is now in the process of crumbling. And I know it's taken a long time, and I know it gets confusing for a lot of people. I'm studying this full time, and I'm telling you I can get confused in the middle of this. And I'm doing my best to make sure that everybody can fully, completely grasp and understand it, and reading everything possible so I can break it down so we can understand here. They knew Hillary Clinton wouldn't be prosecuted for the crime she committed because they put the fix in. Strzok, Comey, exonerating before investigating. Apparently, Loretta Lynch is in the loop, Lisa Page is in the loop, and it appears McCabe is in the loop. All right, so all of those people now, as I've been saying, all these people need to be fired, and then they need to be investigated. And then I would imagine charges need to be brought in these cases. That's what I'm suggesting to everybody here. Back in May, remember, it was Strzok and other top FBI officials writing the exoneration statement. They hadn't interviewed Hillary or 17 other key witnesses in the case. I've never heard of an exoneration letter being written before the investigation has even begun for the most part. It means it's rigged. It means the fix is in. Now we learned yesterday the Attorney General Loretta Lynch meeting Bill Clinton on the tarmac, 40-minute meeting. They weren't talking about their grandchildren for 40 minutes at this crucial moment in this timeline here. They were talking about exonerating Hillary so that she didn't get arrested before the general election at that point, because she was already pretty much had we knew the fix was in. Now we know that the fix was in from the beginning. And then Lynch also told Comey, hey, don't call this investigation an investigation. Call it a matter. You see how it all begins to tie together. And then days later, when Lynch said she would step away from the email investigation, she says, and this is a key moment, she would accept whatever the FBI's conclusion is, because she had the right to override that. All right, so now you got Comey and Strzok writing the exoneration. Now you got the Attorney General signing off on the deal that they exonerate Hillary. And then we learn that it's a profile in courage of Loretta Lynch to, it was bad timing, though, her meeting Bill Clinton on the tarmac. But it was a profile in courage considering she knew that there wouldn't be any charges brought against Hillary. That's July 1st of 2016. They didn't interview Hillary Clinton till the 4th of July weekend. It was all determined in advance. It was a dog and pony show. The fix was in. Now think about the consequences. What if you fixed a race in horse racing? Are there big consequences for fixing races? What if there's point shaving for bettors in basketball games or football games? Ever hear about those scandals? Well, what if the fix is in to allow somebody that should have been indicted and likely put in jail, you put the fix in with the highest ranking law enforcement officials in the country, the AG and the FBI director, to allow one candidate to break laws they cover up for this individual, to allow that candidate to defeat the candidate that all of them are on record hating. And then in the process of all of this, you ignore she rigged the primary election, you fixed her illegal activities, then she buys a phony Russian dossier, and then the phony Russian dossier designed to influence the general election, and then the dossier full of lies is used to get a FISA warrant to spy on the opposition party in the lead up to the election and set a trap for the president-elect and those around him after the election. And you're thinking, Hannity, you've just jumped the shark. All of that now is provable. All of that happened in the United States of America. And if Lisa Page, for example, if Strzok and Page and Lynch all knew charges weren't going to be recommended against Clinton, you've got to imagine that Mr. Insurance Policy Discussion Andrew McCabe himself, that he knew Hillary was going to go free. Only people that didn't know it were us. I guess we're the suckers in this game because we're the ones that believe in free and fair elections. We don't think the top people in our Department of Justice and our FBI are going to betray us this way and put the fix in this way. But that's what's happened. We also need to know what Rod Rosenstein's role in all of this is. But if you're counting the characters here, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, why are they still working for the FBI? Why is Andrew McCabe still working for the FBI? I don't care if he's retiring in March. Fire him now. And then it raises questions about Bruce Orr. He's meeting with Fusion GPS before and after the election. His wife, Nellie, is literally one of the people hired by Fusion GPS to put the salacious, phony Russian propaganda dossier together. Why are they still working? Why is Bruce Orr still working? Where's Rod Rosenstein? I want to know if Rod Rosenstein, I want to know whether or not he extended the FISA warrant when he got into a position of power because of Jeff Sessions' recusal and all of this. And then the message between Strzok and Page and talks about a change to Comey's Clinton exoneration letter. Now, remember, the statement in the exoneration before investigation originally referenced Clinton's emailing President Obama when she was, quote, on the territory. In other words, she was overseas. And she is emailing on a private server Barack Obama, the president. Now, the part that mentioned Obama was then altered to say, quote, senior government official. Okay, Obama does classify as a senior government official, but he was the president of the United States. So Obama had to have known Clinton was using a private email server, which he denied. So now he's up to his eyeballs in this. And in terms of other developments, we've got Republican efforts to release the memo. You got to keep pressuring your members of Congress. Release the memo. Stay on Twitter, Facebook, and all of and go out there. By the way, I don't, except for tweeting out aspects of my show, I'm not communicating anymore on social media after we have, how many times have we been hacked now?
I mean, too many to count.
Or what'd you say?
It really takes my voice away.
First of all, say first of all.
First of all.
What's the matter?
So
you sick today?
Enjoying this.
What'd you say?
You're going to miss me tomorrow.
I just ordered you to stay home tomorrow.
And you're going to miss me.
Okay, I said you must stay home tomorrow. It's not an option to come into work tomorrow.
To me, more is staying home.
Is that who you're calling yourself? Yeah. Sounds more like a SEAL to me.
Be nice.
So we've been
Stop
hacked.
being mean.
And now the Turkish, whoever this band of Turkish hackers have been out there hacking everybody.
It's actually pretty serious. I mean, this cyber warfare that they're waging against people, and I'm really, it's shocking how little Facebook and Twitter is doing.
Can you explain it in more detail so we can understand?
Yeah, let me get into greater detail so that the universe cannot hear a word.
First of all,
all right. Well, I'll stop being mean. Everyone's going to say this is mean. All right, so the Republicans are demanding the release of the 4-page. We need the release of the memo. And I'm heard it's going to shock the conscience. And the release of the memo, by the way, is only the tip of the spear there, too. And now you also have to ask another question. Where has your media been? A year chasing a rabbit around a track of a false narrative, a false story, with breathless and hysterical reporting that came to nothing. Nothing. There's never been any Trump-Russia collusion in this, but there is. Hillary Clinton bought and paid for Russian lies in this, all designed to influence an election. And that phony lying document she paid for used as a predicate and as the excuse to get a FISA warrant. That court was lied to with Russian lies that Hillary paid for. It's so corrupt. One of the biggest scandals in American history, and our colleagues in the media missed the whole thing. It's going to be interesting to see. And they can't admit they're wrong now. They're so married to their own phony narrative. You know, words like shocking, jaw-dropping, alarming, shredding the Constitution. People will go to jail. That's all the stuff that I hear about those that have seen the memo. Why isn't it out, Hannity? We're pushing to get it out. My sources are telling me probably not until next week, but maybe this week. That's what they're telling me, and I'm talking to people. I'm pushing it every day. There are people in the House leadership, they won't even respond anymore to me. Because I've sent text to Paul Ryan. He will not respond anymore. He's probably like, telling people, get Hannity off my back. He's a pain in my ass. I don't care if I want the truth. We need to see the memo. Release the memo. Find the text messages. Do your jobs. It's unbelievable. We need to know the truth about this abuse of power, the weaponization of the powerful tools of intelligence, the abuse of FISA warrants, and how the Clinton bought and paid for phony dossier was used to spy on the Trump campaign. You know, call 202-224-3121. Call your members of Congress, although half of them are home. You know, when you look at Clinton fixed the primary, I mean, I just keep telling you. You know, I don't want to this is not about patting myself on the back. Everything that we have been reporting since last year has now turned out to be true. And it's even worse than we thought. And there's still so much more to come. And there's so many different investigations we're involved in now. I mean, it's hard to keep them straight. Now, this is only about the dossier and the email server scandal. And trying to fix, abusing FISA warrants and trying to fix an election and covering it all up, and how corrupt the highest members of our intelligence community and our DOJ and our FBI are. But this doesn't even touch Uranium One. And that may turn out to be a much bigger scandal when all's said and done. So much happening. So much to get to. So little time. All right, we've got Newt Gingrich coming up today. We've got our experts, Bill Binney and Phil Hannity are going to join us today. Also, Jim Jordan stops by today and much more. All right, fighting harder than ever to get to the truth, and we're making progress together, and full vindication is on its way, and I want the memo released. We deserve the memo is the beginning. For some of you, you think the memo is just the end. No. I don't want you to get your expectation. The memo will show widespread abuse of FISA, surveillance, and other issues. And it will name names. Beyond that, we've got a long way to go from there. But it's full vindication. That I can tell you. All right, we got Newt Gingrich, we got Bill Binney, we got Phil Hannity, we got Jim Jordan, and Steve Ronnebeck is back. He lost his son 3 years ago yesterday to a dreamer. We'll continue.
We learned today in the thousands of text messages that we reviewed that perhaps they may not have done that. There's certainly a factual basis to question whether or not they acted on that bias. We know about this insurance policy that was referenced in trying to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president. We learned today about information that in the immediate aftermath of his election, that there may have been a secret society of folks within the Department of Justice and the FBI, to include Page and Strzok, that would be working against him. I'm not saying that actually happened, but when folks speak in those terms, they need to come forward to explain the context with which they use those terms.
Congressman Gowdy, do you want to expound on the secret society idea?
Sure, I wish I could. I wish I'd been the one who either sent that text or received it. You have this insurance policy in the spring of 2016, and then the day after the election, the day after what they really didn't want to have happen, there's a text exchange between these two FBI agents, these two supposed to be objective, fact-centric FBI agents, saying perhaps this is the first meeting of the secret society. So, of course, I'm going to want to know what secret society are you talking about, because you're supposed to be investigating objectively the person who just won the Electoral College.
Congressman Gowdy, with regard to these new texts and the idea that there could be a special counsel, a second special counsel requested to look into this, how are you pursuing that?
Well, these texts are incredibly important, Martha, for a number of reasons, both what's there and what's not there. So lay aside this glaring 5-month gap in text that the world's premier law enforcement agency somehow missed. Lay that aside. What we have seen, what Johnny and I saw today, was a text about not keeping text. We saw more manifest bias against President Trump all the way through the election into the transition. And I saw an interesting text that Director Comey was going to update the President of the United States about an investigation. I don't know if it was a Hillary Clinton investigation, because remember that had been reopened in the fall of 2016, or whether it was the Trump investigation. I just find it interesting that the head of the FBI was going to update the President of the United States, who at that point would have been President Obama.
All right, that was Trey Gowdy and Congressman Ratcliffe. And what is the secret society within the DOJ and the FBI that they're talking about that convened after the election? Now we have more Strzok and Page text messages. And then, of course, the 5 missing months during the key period of time when we'd want to know things. Now we're beginning to put together a scenario here. Remember the first batch of Strzok and Page text messages, they go on to say, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. We believe Andrew McCabe, that there's no way he, meaning Trump, gets elected, but I'm afraid we cannot take that risk. It's like an insurance policy. In the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Okay, now we put that together with the text message that came out yesterday. And in one exchange, Strzok and Page are talking back and forth, and they're specifically discussing Loretta Lynch's announcement that she's going to accept the FBI's decision on the Clinton email investigation. And anyway, then the story about Bill Clinton meeting Loretta Lynch on the tarmac comes up, and Strzok texts Page, the timing looks like hell. And then she writes, this is awful timing. In a later exchange, she adds, it's a real profile in courage, and she knows no charges will be brought. And we already know that Strzok and James Comey were writing an exoneration of Hillary months before they ever investigated Hillary Clinton. And if you look at the timeline of that text that I just mentioned, well, that was July 1st. Hillary Clinton wasn't interviewed till the weekend of the 4th of July, 3 days later. And then this gap of we have a 5-month gap in, oops, they're missing. Oops, they're gone. Oops, we can't find them. Well, at that time, very key things happened. The dossier happened. The Flynn interview happened. We know that Comey was fired at that time. Special counsel Mueller was appointed May the 17th, and all of a sudden the texts pick up again on May 18th. So we lost 5 months of text messaging. They ramped up their investigation after Trump won the nomination. Now we're hearing about a secret society meeting the day after the election, and Trump actually won. And the FBI edited out communication between President Obama and Secretary Clinton in Comey's draft July 5th exoneration statement. Why wouldn't they let the public know that? And how did the Attorney General, how did Peter Strzok, how did James Comey, how did Lisa Page, and Andrew McCabe all know that they were never going to bring charges in Hillary's email investigation? Joining us now with his insight, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. There's a lot to absorb here, but as the historian, I've got to ask you to look at this from the Watergate perspective. You know, we found our 18 and a half minute gap, apparently, and it's a 5-month gap of text messages.
Look, this whole thing, you couldn't write a novel like this because it wouldn't be believable. If you believe that the text they were sending each other was accurate and candid, there's a smoking gun, first of all, that they believe that the Attorney General knew that Clinton would not be charged with anything before she was interviewed, which may explain why the interview was not under oath, because the whole thing was a charade. It also suggests to you that when the Attorney General met with President Clinton on that airplane in Arizona, they both probably already knew that they were going through a dance, but nothing was going to come of it. You now have, this idea of 4.5 months, part of what I don't understand is Hillary Clinton's people had to take a hammer and bleach in order to try to make sure they couldn't find information. Surely somewhere, either the NSA or the FBI or somebody is going to be able to track down all of these text messages. It is almost beyond belief that the key players happen to lose 4.5 months of text messages.
Oh, wait a minute, but it happened with Lois Lerner. Lois Lerner's was gone for 2 years, and then we found them. Hillary Clinton deleted 33,000 subpoenaed emails, and then she acid washed the hard drives with bleach pit, and then she had one of her, employees smashing any mobile devices with hammers. Debbie Wasserman Schultz's IT guy, well, he had broken, smashed hard drives in his garage, government hard drives. It seems like this is now the go-to option. Just destroy everything.
Well, and what that, as I've said before, talking with you both on radio and TV, this is clearly, by any plausible standard, the most corrupt senior Justice Department and senior FBI we have ever seen in American history. And it's frightening. Here you had the people who were supposed to enforce the law, who are engaged in a conspiracy to undermine the new president, to protect the Democratic nominee. It seems to me they're not going to possibly avoid having an independent counsel go into this whole thing, and that you're going to have Comey at risk. You're going to have, remember, the deputy who they're referring to, whose office they were meeting in, his wife had been a candidate for the state senate, and I believe got $900,000 in donations from the Democrats. So you have a whole issue there of whether he should have, at a minimum, recused himself from anything involved in this, because there's patent obvious bias involved. Every time you turn around in this case, something new comes out, and it's ironically, after all their attacks on Clinton on Trump, all of the real evidence is coming out about the Democrats. And you'll notice one of the texts that was not lost was the one where Strzok says, I really don't want to do the Mueller thing because I know, as the guy who's been the deputy.
Yeah, there's nothing happened.
There's nothing there.
There's no there. Well, what about the fact that what do you make of this secret society that they're discussing here, and they're discussing Strzok and Page how to remove text messages before the text messages went missing. In other words, they have a text out there about eliminating the text. That sounds like obstruction to me.
Well, certainly. And what you have to ask yourself is whether or not there was ever a true secret society. Who did they think was in the secret society? Did they think that the deputy head of the FBI was? It was his office they were talking in. Did they think Comey was? He's the guy who basically exonerates Hillary Clinton and refuses to ask her questions under oath. I mean, just go down the list. And you have to say to yourself that there is more than enough here already to justify a full-blown investigation and to justify bringing in an independent counsel.
Here's what I need to ask you. This is a very important question. Now, you're right, you couldn't write this in a novel. But you have Hillary Clinton. We now know, Donna Brazile told us, she rigged the primary election. Bernie Sanders supporters had no shot. It was rigged from the get-go. Then you've got now evidence that, in fact, Comey and Strzok, and it looks like Loretta Lynch is in the loop somehow, and I've got to believe Andrew McCabe, that the fix is in on the email server investigation by them. And it's profound because they're writing the exoneration before the investigation, which, they didn't even interview Hillary till July 4th. They're doing this in May. And they even take away the legal standard gross negligence out of it. They take that foreign entities actually hacked into Hillary's email server. Then you've got Hillary and her campaign paying $12 million, funneling it through a lawyer. She's running the DNC, according to Donna Brazile. That money's funneled through the same lawyer to produce a dossier with Russian propaganda and lies so that they can kind of rig the general election. Now, then that phony dossier is used to get a FISA warrant to spy on an opposition candidate, presidential candidate, in an election year. And then they spy on the candidate, and then they spy on a president-elect and his team. All of which is illegal, and especially fundamentally, she was guilty as hell in terms of mishandling classified top secret special access program information and destroying such. All of that, had she not gotten the pass from Comey and company, she wouldn't have been the nominee. And it would have put the party in chaos. So they made a decision to put her above the law. I mean, you can't write that. And what I'm saying is indisputable at this point.
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think what you had here is a decision. And this goes back to the entire corruption of the Clinton system, the corruption of the foundation, the sheer scale of money that these people were engaged in, the degree to which they were willing to do things. They basically believed that there was no law as far as Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were concerned, and they had an entire network of people who came to share the same belief. And I mean, that's the conclusion I reach, is that this was a degree of absolute not even thinking about the law. They thought that their job was to run America, and if that meant that they had to break the law and they had to try to destroy Trump and they had to do a variety of other things, they were going to do it. And I also agree with you. I think the person in some ways who has the greatest grievance here has to be Bernie Sanders, because it is so clear.
He actually accepted it and went along with it. All right, well, stay right there. Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, his best-selling book, Vengeance. All right, as we continue, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, as we now continue our investigation into what has now become a colossal mess. The danger here, I want you to put your historian hat on. Watergate was a third-rate break-in to get opposition information, steal information in the course of a presidential campaign, and then it was about a cover-up. Now we're talking about weaponizing the powerful tools of intelligence and lying in the process, using bought and paid for Russian lies to go after a presidential candidate, influence the electorate, and basically try and steal an election with that phony information, and in the process have the government do the spying and the leaking and be involved in all of this. How much worse on a scale compared to Watergate is this?
Well, they're not at all comparable. I mean, Watergate was in some ways part of the old order in which Nixon felt like he was constrained by the law. And ultimately, the people around him were constrained by the law. These are people who are blatantly rigging the game at every level, and who, I think, had Clinton won, we would have learned nothing of this scandal. And it should scare people. I mean, you're talking here about elements of the Justice Department, elements of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, deciding that they would break the law in order to stop the American people's choice from becoming president. Now think about the meaning of that. This is totally different, I think, than the Watergate problem. This is really a very profound threat, because if we don't get to the bottom of this, and if we don't make it clear that you simply can't do things like this, we run the risk of eventually, over time, people deciding that they're just going to randomly enforce the laws they care about, and will begin to resemble one of those third world dictatorships where the power of the state props up the rich and the powerful and crushes dissent, and Venezuela being the current very painful example. And I think that this is truly, I know of no occasion in American history. In fact, I'll challenge our audience to email you if they come up with one. I know of no occasion in American history where we have seen the power of the government and the power of the police forces used
then let me ask
the way
this.
they have been used here.
This is the biggest political scandal in my lifetime, and maybe even when all is said and done in the history of the country. You've had the left-wing media in this country fixated on Trump-Russia collusion. They have ignored the biggest story of their lives. They are complicit in a lot of ways, because you would think that there are some journalists now looking at all this saying, oh, my God, what has happened? Where are they in this moment when you would think their better selves are called to greatness? Sir, thank you. We'll see you on TV, I think tonight. Thank you, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. 800-941-SEAN is our toll-free telephone number. We have Congressman Jim Jordan. He's been railing about all of this. Also, Bill Binney will be joining us, and Phil Haney. And how can we recover this information? Steve Ronnebeck, who lost his son, Grant Ronnebeck, is going to talk about the immigration debate and much more. Straight ahead.
There are a couple of interesting emails. One was November 14, 2016, right after the election, where Lisa Page texts Strzok and says, God, being here makes me angry. Lots of highfalutin national security talk. Meanwhile, we have our task ahead of us. Now, our is capitalized. I mean, are they talking about implementing their plan? So that's in November. And then on May 19th, again, we've got a big gap, 5-month gap, and now the texts begin again. This is 2 days after Mueller was just appointed special counsel. Strzok writes, they're talking back and forth about their futures, the FBI and the recent appointment in Mueller. They're talking about, what they ought to do. And it indicates that they're considering joining that Mueller special counsel investigation. Strzok says, quote, you and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern there's no big there. In other words, Peter Strzok, who was the FBI Deputy Assistant Director of the Counterintelligence Division, the man who had a plan to do something because he just couldn't abide Donald Trump being president, is saying that in his gut sense is that there's no big there when it comes to the Mueller special counsel investigation. Doesn't know that he really wants to join that because his gut sense is there's no big there. I think that's kind of jaw-dropping.
All right, 24 now till the top of the hour, 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. By the way, those of you wondering, well, how are we ever going to retrieve the 5 months of missing texts? We'll check in with our security experts, Bill Binney and Phil Haney, coming up later in the program today. Joining us now, he's been amazing in trying to chip away at this now what is a huge, massive scandal, is Congressman Jim Jordan of the great state of Ohio. Did you hear Trey Gowdy and Congressman Ratcliffe talking about a secret FBI society? What the hell? What is it?
Well, who knows? That's why we got to talk to Strzok. We got to talk to Page, and hopefully we'll got to find these 5 months of missing text messages. But what's funny too is Sean, what Senator Johnson was saying, that there's no there. What Peter Strzok was texting back to Lisa Page. Yet he still joined the team. He still went on. He doesn't think there's anything there. He doesn't want to do it, but he does. Now, why does he do that? Is it to implement their, quote, insurance policy that they talked about before the election when they were trying to put their finger on the scale and help Secretary Clinton be the next president and hurt Donald Trump? Is it part of their insurance policy that he still goes on the team even though he doesn't think anything there, that there's anything there? That's what we need to find out as well. What is this insurance policy that they've referenced in previous texts all about?
Okay, I think, though, if we go to the insurance policy and then take it a step further, I think we're beginning to understand. Now, one other thing to add to that, we've got now Strzok and Page discussing how to remove text messages before the text went missing. So So I think that's pretty interesting. But you're right. If we go to the original text message, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. That has to be Andrew McCabe, that there's no way he gets elected, meaning Trump. But I'm afraid that we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. And then what we received yesterday, I think, is very, very clear. And remember, they didn't interview Hillary Clinton until July 4th. Peter Strzok and James Comey were writing the exoneration back in early May. And they took out the gross negligence standard. They took out the foreign entities had hacked and gotten the emails and top secret special access program information. Anyway, and then we had the whole issue being exposed of Loretta Lynch meeting Bill Clinton on the tarmac. Now, this new text comes in. It's dated July 1st, 3 days before the FBI interviews Hillary Clinton, but the exoneration's already written. And so anyway, Peter Strzok writes Lisa Page, the timing looks like hell. Yeah, it's awful timing, she says, and then adds, it's a real profiling courage, and since she knows no charges will be brought. So Strzok knows it, and Page knows it. Loretta Lynch, they're saying, knows it, and I got to assume McCabe knows it.
Yeah, the top people knew it. The Clinton investigation the fix was in from the get-go. That's what all the evidence suggests. They went through the motions to make it look like they ran a real investigation. And then you have the text messages during the campaign that say we can't take the risk that Donald Trump's going to be elected by the American people. We need an insurance policy. You have the text message the day after the election. Now we need to implement our plan, Lisa Page says to Peter Strzok. And then you have this text message says, even though there's no there, and even though I don't want to join Mueller's team, I'm going to. He went ahead and did it. Why did he do it? Seems logical to say he did it to implement their plan, whatever that was.
Well, doesn't it suggest when they're discussing, how they're going to remove the text messages and get rid of them? Well, doesn't that sound like an effort to obstruct justice at some point and hide something?
Sure sounds like it, but we'll have to see. What we need to find out is these 5 months of missing messages, which and I know you talked about this yesterday.
Well, where are the phones? Where are the phones? Where are the physical phones?
I assume the Justice Department still has it. We don't have an answer. I talked with Senator Johnson's staff people today who are great staff people and said, do we know where the phones are? They said, we don't, but we're going to find out. So does the FBI have them? Does the Justice Department have them? Did they give them back to the carrier? I don't know. Let's hope they have those devices, the actual physical phones themselves, so we can figure out what's there. And let's hope that we're also going to, and I believe that talking with Senator Johnson's team, they're going to ask the carriers to give the information and help us figure out where these missing 5 months are.
All right, so this gets even more strange because while one FBI scandal after another is being exposed here, and I'm not talking about rank and file, I'm talking about people like McCabe and Comey and Strzok and Page and a bunch of others. Looks like Rod Rosenstein. I want to know his role in all of this. It appears, so last night, Congressman Ratcliffe tweets out the thousands of texts that Trey Gowdy and I reviewed today revealed manifest bias among top FBI officials against President Trump. The text between Strzok and Page referenced a, quote, secret society. Well, a little more than 3 hours later, disgraced ex-FBI director James Comey appeared to respond to Ratcliffe's tweet with a cryptic message saying, well, good to read reports of people standing up for what they believe in. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy, quoting MLK. Which begs the question, was Comey the chairman of this FBI secret anti-Trump society?
We don't know, but we do know, like you said, Sean, there are top people whose names keep coming up. Why did Jim Baker, general counsel of the FBI, get reassigned just 4 weeks ago? Andrew McCabe's name comes up all the time. Andrew McCabe, who him and his wife met with Terry McAuliffe while his wife's running for state senate. He met with Terry McAuliffe at the same time Terry McAuliffe's under investigation, for goodness sake. Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Bill Priestap, Jim Baker, and Lisa Page. These key names keep coming up all the time. And then you get some context to it when you start looking at all these text messages back and forth between Ms. Page and Mr. Strzok. So all these people, we've interviewed Mr. McCabe, we've interviewed Mr. Ribicki, who's chief of staff at the FBI when this was all happening, but we need to get to these other people and find out the answers.
Well, how does this keep happening?
Questions.
I mean, Lois Lerner's emails were missing for 2 years. Hillary Clinton was subpoenaed by Congress to hand over 33,000 emails. She deletes them. Then she acid washes and bleach bits the hard drive. Then she has somebody that works for her bust up the devices with hammers. Then you got Debbie Wasserman Schultz's IT guy with busted up hard drives in his garage. At some point here, there's a pattern. And, what are we going to do and how quickly are we going to hire the people that can recover this information forensically?
Yeah, we're going to do all we can, but you're right. I mean, it maybe if it was just the IRS, you could say, you expect incompetence at the IRS. But remember, this
No, we found those emails 2 years later.
Yeah, they found them, and then they destroyed the backup tapes at the facility in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and John Koskinen didn't tell us about it when he testified, by the way. But remember, this is Peter Strzok, Deputy Head of Counterintelligence at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is not Lois Lerner, some bureaucrat in the IRS who has to plan to come after us, understand. But this is Peter Strzok, Deputy Head of Counterintelligence at the FBI, and suddenly 5 months in a critical time period, December 14th, 2016, when all the unmasking is taking place, when there's all this back and forth between the intelligence community and President-elect Trump, when all that's happening, that's when it starts, December 14th, and it just so happens to end
Okay,
on
let's
May
talk
17th,
about
2017.
Let's talk about all the events that occurred after that day, because this is the critical time period. The timeline matters here.
Sure does.
And if we look at the timeline, what do we have? Oh, that's when the Steele dossier comes out and is released by BuzzFeed. That's when Flynn is interviewed. Flynn's interviewed by Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok has an anti-Trump bias. And I would think that General Flynn's lawyers have to be reconsidering this guilty plea to lying to the FBI, especially because I believe that, in fact, they knew the answers to questions ahead of time because they had illegally surveilled and unmasked and then leaked raw intelligence. So they knew the answers. If either he misremembered or lied, they would have known. And that's why they got him there. And then they threatened to go after his son, from what I can gather. And then January 11th, Comey is fired. We don't have the text messages then. May 17th is when the special counsel is appointed. Comey's fired May 9th. And then all of a sudden, so we hadn't seen one text from December 14th of 2016 to
Right.
May 17th, the day that special counsel Mueller is appointed. Doesn't that seem a little odd and convenient to you?
No, for that to be a coincidence, you got to be kidding me. And remember the broader framework, and I think this is important. Chuck Schumer, the head of the Democrat Party, Chuck Schumer says on January 3rd, 2017, just a few days before President Trump is going to be inaugurated as the next president, Chuck Schumer says, when you get in a fight with the intelligence community, they have 6 ways to Sunday to get back at you. So is all these deleted text messages, might they have something to do with the 6 ways to Sunday the intelligence community is trying to attack and target President Trump? Might it have something to do with that? Did they suddenly disappear because it was how they were targeting and trying to get back 6 ways to Sunday to the President-elect of the United States, and then after the President-elect of the United States? That's what concerns me. That should never be said by one of the top officials in our government is talking about the Intelligence Committee getting back at the person the American people elected president. It doesn't work that way in this country. But that's what I want to know. Why I want to see these 5 months of missing text messages.
Well, I mean, how quickly, expeditiously are we going to get on this? I've got to imagine the FBI should, or at least somebody in law enforcement has the best people that are capable forensically of pretty much recovering anything, right?
Yeah, they should be. Right. This is the FBI. This is not a bunch of hacks in the bureaucracy at the IRS. This is the FBI. And the guy we're talking about is Deputy Head of Counterintelligence. He's supposed to be this genius. He fancies himself as the James Bond of the FBI. So come on.
All right, stay right there. More with Jim Jordan in just a second. 800-941-SEAN. Toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of the program. Now we're going to talk to our computer experts, Bill Binney. He's going to join us. Phil Haney later in the top of the next hour. All right, as we continue, Jim Jordan is with us, Congressman Ohio, and can you imagine where we are here? How did we get to the point Hillary Clinton rigs a primary? Hillary Clinton has Comey, Strzok, exonerating her without even investigating the case, because she would have been arrested. She would have been indicted on the crimes that she committed on the email server. So they're basically protecting her because they've decided they want her over Trump. Then you've got Loretta Lynch apparently playing a role, according to these new Strzok page texts. Then you've got that phony Russian dossier Hillary Clinton bought and paid for with lies to really rig and fix the general election with lies against Donald Trump, and that phony bought and paid for Hillary dossier, Russian propaganda is used against Trump to get a FISA warrant to spy on an opposition candidate in an election year, and then a president-elect as he's coming into office and sabotage him. And apparently now we have a special team of, FBI people and DOJ people that are organizing meetings to depose of the will of the people.
Scary,
isn't it?
And on top of all that,
is there anything I'm saying that's wrong there?
5 months of missing messages. And imagine this, Sean. Sean Hannity is being investigated by the FBI, and suddenly important information on your phone, you just delete it. Can you imagine what the FBI would do? IRS is looking into one of your many listeners out there, and they're looking into them, and they have documents that destroyed that are under.
By the way, this is
under a preservation order. They're in big trouble, but yet it continues to happen with folks who were in the Obama administration, in the bureaucracy during the Obama administration.
All right. Thanks, Jim Jordan, Congressman, Ohio. 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. House Intel Committee Republicans refuse to share the secret memo with the FBI and the Justice Department. Why? Because they're investigating them. They have no choice. They can't trust them. Quick break. Right back. We'll continue. Can we retrieve those missing text messages? We'll check in with two experts, Bill Binney and Phil Haney, coming up next.
Well, these texts are incredibly important, Martha, for a number of reasons, both what's there and what's not there. So lay aside this glaring 5-month gap in texts that the world's premier law enforcement agency somehow missed. Lay that aside. What we have seen, what Johnny and I saw today, was a text about not keeping text. We saw more manifest bias against President Trump